For every dollar of wealth in the hands of the average white family, the typical black family has only a little more than a nickel.
Well, I deliberately did not want the famous names in the film. I covered almost all of them as a columnist, so I know them. But I felt like um, that was not the perspective I was looking for, and I also felt that the viewers would see these faces and more or less roll their eyes and say, "Oh, well, we've heard what he said before. We know what she thinks," or something like that. I wanted to get to the much closer to the people who have lived the things we were talking about in the film. So we went on the hunt for just more or less ordinary people, smart people, hardworking people and stuff, but not people who were particularly famous or prominent in their field.
Right, because the story that you tell is a story of people enduring difficulties and people not giving up, and it's a very important angle. And this is a movie about the American dream or not, and if you believe still in the American dream or not.
Yeah, I do believe in the American dream. I think I've been a voracious reader of history ever since I've been in grammar school, so I've read a lot about history. And this is, very objectively, this is a great country. And in comparison to the societies that have existed, that exist now, and who going back hundreds and even thousands of years, this is a remarkable country. The amount of the level, the amount of freedom that we have in this country, the freedom to travel, the freedom of speech and religion in this country. These are all such important things. And even though we're in what I think of as troubled economic times, it's still possible. You can get an education and you can make a living in this country. It's very difficult often, but you can. And my sister and I have lived the American dream. I grew up in the early post-war decades in the 1950s and 60s in suburban New Jersey. And we've thrived in this country, and I consider that living the American dream. What we need to do is bring millions more people into that dream, make it uh, possible for more people to succeed in this country and to live satisfying lives. And we're not doing that. We're not making it easier or less expensive to get an education. Um, at the moment, we're not expanding the pool of people who are covered by health insurance, and so it's becoming more difficult, not less difficult, to get decent health care in this country. There is much too much income and wealth inequality in this country now, and we're not doing anything to reverse that. We can't even talk about redistribution, although wealth has been redistributed from the bottom and the middle to the top, and we've been doing that for decades. Astonishing amounts of money have have been sucked up by the people at the top. But you're not even allowed to talk publicly about redistributing money from the top down. So all of these things need to be dealt with. And then there are existential crises. I mean, global warming is an issue that is profoundly important, and very little attention is being paid to that, for example. You should take global warming because it is such a crisis. It needs to be dealt with, but you should turn it into an opportunity. Put people to work in the fight against global warming. Get your best minds in the country and put them together and find out new strategies for dealing with climate change and that sort of thing. These are all things that the United States and Americans are capable of doing, but we're not doing it.
You touched so many things that I would like to address. So, well, yeah, because climate change, I think it's it is a problem. And I found amazing during the campaign that the only person who addressed it was Bernie Sanders. And he understands that with climate change, we have, again, the economic struggle because, against the ones that are on the lower end of, I don't know how to say, of the ladder, or
Yeah.
there is no good word.
The lower rungs of the ladder, sure.
Yeah, that's just so bad definition of what's going on. But what I was thinking also watching your film is, I was reminded of something that I learned fairly recently, and therefore I'm not so optimist, which is that when this country was created, there were slaves or slave labor, and was white as well, black labor. There was no racism right then. But then the white people started to feel like they needed to stand up, to grow, and therefore slaves as an institution was created, right? So I feel like the economic crisis now, which touches the black middle class, but also the white middle class, don't you think it's going to be a scary? And I mean, do you still think we can be optimistic about a black middle class being established?
Well,
Since
at the moment, it's very difficult to be optimistic because Donald Trump is president and the Republicans are in control of both houses of Congress as well as the White House, and I think that we're going backwards on these issues. I think we're going backwards economically. So I think that the situation is dire for Americans, black and white. I think that the middle class,
right,
whether you're African American or white, I think the middle class is in trouble. So until we make a change at the higher echelons of government, I won't be optimistic. At the moment, I'm not optimistic. But if you ask me about the long term, about the possibilities in the United States of America, am I optimistic? Yes. I look at the younger generations. I look at the kids that I talk to when I go around to the college campuses. I think that there's a tremendous amount of energy, a tremendous amount of intelligence. I hope that it can be harnessed for good. And I've chosen to be optimistic in the long run. In the short run, not so much.
Right. And two things that you, I'm sure, purposely do not address are the Black Panther program for breakfast for children, and that has been destroyed by, basically, I think, by the FBI, by the government, and the prison system that is definitely a new form of slavery.
Yeah, there are so many issues that we weren't able to address. It's a 78-minute film, and we had to keep it tight. So there were many things. I addressed housing, for example, but I didn't address education to the same degree. So, and that's important too.